right, Governor, what have the stops in Iowa been like today? How's the reception been?
Look, people have been extremely friendly, extremely enthusiastic. I've been back to a lot of communities I've visited before. Great to see some familiar faces. People here in Iowa, they're a confident, optimistic, resilient people. Look, they're fighting through the drought, fighting through the national recession. But they're also optimistic that our state, the state of Iowa, and this country can do better. The reality is they're ready for a change. 4 years ago, President Obama, many believe, launched his successful campaign because of his success in Iowa, promising us hope and change. A lot of great rhetoric. 4 years later, it's become divide and blame. A lot of broken promises. Promised he'd cut that deficit in half by the end of the first 4 years, didn't do it. Promised to keep unemployment below 8%, didn't do it. Promised he'd cut health care premiums $2,500, didn't do that either. I think people in Iowa, people in America are tired of the broken promises, tired of the speeches. They know we can't borrow our way into prosperity, tax and spend our way into prosperity. They're ready for a change. So we've had great crowds, a lot of enthusiasm. Folks know we're in challenging times, but they're strong, they're resilient. Mostly, they're optimistic about our future.
Everyone seems to agree Iowa is going to be a key swing state. If there's an undecided voter out there in Iowa, why should they vote for Mitt Romney?
I think two reasons. One, we've had 4 years now where we had a president who'd never run anything before he was elected president of the United States. Not a business, not a state, not even a lemonade stand. Governor Romney's been very successful as governor, very successful in the private sector, very successful turning around the Olympics. When he was governor of Massachusetts, for example, unemployment was below the national average, below 5%. They were losing jobs. He turned it around. They were gaining jobs. Per capita income was growing faster than the national average at that time. They were one of the top 10 turnaround states in the entire country. So he's got a great, great record. He's ready to do this job on the first day. But secondly, when you look at their policies, this president has not only got a failed track record, what is disturbing is what he believes about the path forward. He really believes we need more government spending, more government programs. He promised to reform the entitlement programs. Not only did he not do that, he enacted a $1.76 trillion new entitlement program in Obamacare. We can't afford the programs we've got today. And what's disturbing is we can't afford another 4 more years of his policies. For that undecided voter, I'd say this is a very important election. Think carefully, what kind of country do you want to leave to your children and grandchildren? Every generation leaves more opportunities than we inherited from our parents. Let's not become the first generation that mortgages our children's future. Over $15 trillion of debt a few weeks ago, so bad that even the Europeans are lecturing us. Now get that, the Europeans are lecturing us about how much we're borrowing, how much we're spending. You know things are bad when they're telling us that. It is time for a change. American people know we're not better off than we were 4 years ago. A lot of great speeches 4 years ago, a lot of broken promises 4 years later. It's time for a change in the White House.
His campaign is desperately trying to spin his comments about you didn't build that. But if you look at the entire quote in context, he's clearly saying it was all about government putting you in that position.
That's exactly right. Look, first he says, if you have a business, you didn't build that. His aide said, oh, he didn't really mean that. A few weeks ago he says, private sector is doing fine. It's the public sector we have to worry about. His aide said, oh, we didn't mean that. A few years ago, 4 years ago, when he was in California, he said, well, Americans are clinging to their guns and religion. His aides came out and said, oh, he didn't mean that. The reality is, I think these quotes are very telling. I think they reveal a lot about the president, what he truly believes, what he says and thinks behind closed doors. What's even more revealing are his policies. Look, you don't even have to go to his quotes. You're exactly right. He truly believes the answer to all of our problems is another government program. We don't need to be creating a culture of dependence in this country. Food stamp rolls have grown 70% over the last 5 years. What I worry about is we're going to have more people in the cart than pulling the cart. You hear Democrats talk about Obamacare and they say, oh, this is free money. This is free health care. It's not free. Well, the American people know that. We're not fools. We know those are our tax dollars. We know that every time they borrow another $1 billion, another $1 trillion, whether they're going to the Chinese or others, our kids have to pay that back. Our grandchildren have to pay that back. I think you're exactly right. I think the comments say a lot about this president. And even more troubling to me, it's not just his comments, they're his actions. You've seen, we've had 4 years of failed policies. This has been the most liberal, most incompetent president since Jimmy Carter. And no offense to Jimmy Carter, but we can't afford another 4 more years of this president. We must make a change in the White House.
And the question everybody's asking, will you be Governor Romney's running mate?
Well, two things. One, obviously we're referring all those questions to the Romney campaign. Let me tell you this election is not about Joe Biden. This election really is about the two men at the top of the ticket. A lot of elections, they're incremental choices. This election, you couldn't have two more different people in terms of executive branch experience, in terms of political philosophies. We can't afford 4 more years of President Obama. If you want to see that future, look to Europe. If you want to see that future, look at what's going on in Greece. It is not sustainable. And so the Obama campaign is going to try to distract us. They're going to try to make up all kinds of things about Romney's record. They're going to try to come up with all kinds of irrelevant issues. Make no mistake about it. The president cannot run on his record. He cannot run on his campaign platform, his philosophy. He's going to have to try to tear down Governor Romney. At the end of the day, this is a clear choice between two very, very different candidates. Let's not fall for the bait. Let's remember what's at stake in this election. I've got 3 young kids. I want them to have the same opportunities I took for granted growing up in this great country. We are blessed to live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Let's make sure that continues to remain the case for our children and grandchildren.